hostages. Sometimes they're released by angels. Sometimes they're released by commandos. In any case, this is God using his special forces to do his will. A little while ago, IDF released a couple of hostages from deep inside the Gaza Strip, and I'm reading the accounts, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but I can't help but make a connection to one of the most famous hostage rescues from the past. And if you got a Bible, open it up. We're going to go to Acts chapter 12, and here's what it says. Peter was kept in prison, but constant prayer was offered to God for him by the church. And when Herod was about to bring him out that night, Peter was sleeping. He was bound in chains between two soldiers. And the guards before the door were keeping the prison. And behold, an angel of the Lord stood by him, and a light shone on the prison. And he struck Peter on the side and said, "Rise quickly." And the chains fell off his hands. And the angel said, "Gird yourself, tie your sandals." He said, "Put on your garments and follow me." And they went out and followed. So he went out and followed him. But he wasn't sure that what was done by the angel was real. He thought he was seeing a vision. And when they were past the first and the second guard post, they came to the iron gates that led to the city, which opened for them on their own accord. And they went out down one street, and immediately the angel departed from him. The prayer of the church, the prayer of the people, is what brought the angel into the prison in the middle of the night while he was sleeping to release him from his chains and to release him from the prison. A couple of days ago, the IDF Special Forces, actually the Amman, which is a police force, had realized where two prisoners were held in Rafiah. Now, Rafiah is the part of Gaza that hasn't seen any of the fighting. And they did the same thing. They broke through the wall in the middle of the night. Big noise, big light. They actually connected them and said, "We are here to take you." They put flak jackets. They put body armor on them. They put sandals on them, and they took them back out, climbed back down the wall, and basically left the city and rescued these two hostages from their bondage in Gaza. These are two of 137 hostages that are still kept inside. And what I'm trying to say is I can't help make the connection. I mean, you hear the stories from the soldiers that were actually doing it, and it sounds like they were doing the same things that the angel did. I mean, you hear the connections, you see how, and they were wet. They actually, on Israeli TV the other day, they actually said that they were mixed up. They believed it was a dream in the beginning, and it turned out to be real. And these are two of 136 hostages that are still inside. So from now to 134 hostages, we don't know what's going on. But Israel is moving into precise, adequate, very, very directed hostage rescue. And I think that's going to put a little bit more pressure on Hamas. Again, Israel is well known for Hamas rescues. And the most famous of the Hamas rescues, which is very connected to what's going on today, is the Entebbe rescue, when the Israeli forces flew Hercules airplanes all the way down to Africa and released Israeli hostages that were actually taken by a Palestinian group and were held in Uganda, no less. They flew all the way down there in the middle of the night, surprised the terrorists because they didn't believe anything was going to come from that far away, and managed to kill all the terrorists, load all the hostages on the plane. And as they were leaving the airport there, a sniper took out the commander of the forces. That was Yonatan Netanyahu, none other than the brother of Benjamin Netanyahu, who died in a hostage release in Entebbe all the way back there. I can't help but make connections like this. These are connections that the Bible is talking about, that Israel is talking about. And the most important connection I want to make here is that the prayer of the church was a motivating factor in bringing those angels, that angel, to the prison. And what I'm trying to say is we need the prayer of the church today to be a motivating factor to help us release those prisoners, either by negotiation or by military operations like this. But those hostages need to be released as soon as possible. A couple of words about the situation. The fighting is still going on. The world is crying out for a ceasefire. And a ceasefire basically that says leave Hamas in place, negotiate for the hostages, and at the end of this war, Hamas is going to come out standing. The world is negotiating for a ceasefire because they are seeing the damage that has taken place in Gaza. And they're blaming, like in other cases, they're blaming Israel for that damage. What I'm trying to say is, let's make this clear. Israel needs to finish off Hamas. And the last place that we need to go into is where these hostages were released from is inside Rafiq. It means that's where they're holding all of our hostages. So the next stage is to go into Rafiq, which is literally on the border between Egypt and the Gaza Strip. Rafiq is closest to the Egyptian borders. The Egyptians are very worried about the fact that the Palestinians are going to climb over the fence and kind of run into Egypt, and they don't want the Palestinians in Egypt. The Americans are making a lot of noise because they're worried about a humanitarian crisis. And Israel is saying, we have to finish this. This has to be done. We cannot leave the Hamas standing with our hostages, as we can see in Rafiq, and this be the end of this war. Because if we do this, and I'm going to say this very clear, everybody's going to be held hostage. Everybody, the whole world is going to be held hostage by people who think that they have the power, people that they think that they have the reason, people who are willing to take hostages, who are willing to actually grab anybody from the Western world and hold them for ransom or for political gain. And look at what's happening with the Houthis in Yemen. They're taking hostage of a waterway. They're taking a hostage of people, and actually they did jump on a boat, capture a boat, and take it off to the Houthis, and now they're having a hostage negotiation. The whole taking of hostages has become something that we have to prove to the world that you can't do this. Otherwise, you can't be sure that your women, your children, your families will not be taken as pawns in some kind of future political aspect or some kind of future religious aspect. And I can't help but connect the last connection that connects to this, and that is this. We were all hostages, including me, and those of you who know my story. We were hostage to death. We were hostages to sin. And it was God's special forces, none other than God's Son himself, who broke the chains and released us from prison. There's hope. It happens. It happens to each and every one. It has happened to each and every one of us. And if you don't know this breaking of chains, contact me or leave a comment, and I will show you how to get out of the prison that you are in. But those of you who know what I'm talking about understand the need for us to be released from this bondage. So that's the situation. Israel is also being held hostage by the Hezbollah in the north. They're saying, we're here, make sure. And they're threatening. And they're actually holding the northern part of Israel hostage today. A lot of the people are not living in the border areas in the north. The whole Iranian proxy dynamic is even holding all of the Western world hostage today. And it's time to break the chains. It's time to stand up and say, we are going to release our hostages. We're going to find a way. We're going to do it no matter what. It's time to say, this cannot continue. Hostage taking is not the right way to do it. It's time to break the chains. It's time for all of us to be saved. This is the Balagan Connection. Hostages, angels, commandos, and Jesus Christ himself to save us all from our bondage. Hope to see you soon.